All right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of Fireside Diesel. And today we have Ethan with Joe Engineering Performance. He's our service advisor here, and glad to have him here today. So we wanted to welcome him to the show and talk to you a little bit about a good question I think that most of you as customers will have. This kind of pertains to all aspects of diesel repair, not just engine builds or aftermarket parts or anything like that. But the question is how do I know I can trust a diesel shop, and how do I know that they do good work? And that's a really good question because so many guys, a lot of times they'll just get referrals from another, a friend, and that's kind of tough because you go, well, the guy did a heck of a job changing my oil. Well, yeah. That's great. Well, Walmart can do that. Or you can say, I put injectors in, and that may be fine too. I know as an engine builder, I'm always thinking of big repairs, right? And those are really costly. So
right.
Those are some of the things that, if I was looking at going in and spending a bunch of money on something like that, I'm always thinking, maybe the guy can change oil, but I don't know that I trust him to put an engine in.
Right.
So what are some of the things that that you've noticed that you think that really help be able to determine whether or not it is a shop with some validity to it? It's a legitimate shop that you can trust your work done by them.
Broadly speaking, going into a shop, are they insured? That's always a great sign. That's an on or off switch.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely
immediate right there. Other things, does it look like the shop is invested in itself? Does it look like the shop owner is invested in the shop? Mm-hmm. Is he, if he goes bankrupt tomorrow and he can just close up and move out?
Yeah,
that's not a good sign.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, going back to the insured side of things, that's a good point because a lot of guys I have dealt with in the past, unfortunately, and I've said this, if you've listened to our videos at all very long, you've heard me say the guy goes out and he buys the best engine that he possibly can purchase, and then goes and finds the cheapest installer out there that he can get, a buddy's buddy, to install it. And no offense to anybody's buddies out there, but what happens is that the guy either doesn't replace the parts that are necessary, oil coolers, oil pumps, injector lines, or whatever it might be, and they install the engine, and then something happens and the engine is damaged on the with the installation. And I've had guys come up to me and say, I've got one sticks out in my mind. It's like we had a guy that he bent 6 out of 8 connecting rods, and the entire engine was just flooded in diesel fuel. And it's pretty common on certain engine types. And when we approached him about it, I was like, look, we will document everything for you. They brought the truck to us so that we could diagnose it. And I said, look, I will document everything. We'll make videos on this so that you'll have some evidence that you can go back on this shop. And as I'm saying this to this guy, I can tell something's not right.
Yeah.
And he's got this blank stare on his face. And it's, the whole time I'm talking to him, I'm thinking, oh my stars,
he's got his own alarm bells going off
in
his head.
Yeah. And you're going, don't worry. I mean, these shops carry insurance for this very purpose. They'll take care of this. Blah, blah, blah. We just need to make a good case so we can show this is exactly what happened. And finally, the guy goes, that won't work. And I look at him and I'm like, what do you mean that won't work? And he goes, it was a buddy of mine. He's got a shop and I let him do it. Oh, man. Great. So now I know what's going to happen. Instead of him holding the shop who botched this install accountable, who was the one that damaged it, because our quality control only goes to the dock door.
Right.
Once it's loaded on the truck, headed to you, whatever happens between the time it gets to you and the frame rails and loaded up, the cab gets put back down, whatever, all that stuff, I can't quality control that.
Yeah.
And I know what's going to happen. Now he's going to get mad at me because he's going to want me to do something that is not my responsibility, but not in my wheelhouse to do it, because I have to take care of legitimate, warranty claims. I have to make sure that the customer's taken care of. But I can't, this guy, I can show you what the guy did. He just destroyed this thing. And then the guy's, I can't go back on him because he's a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
You just put yourself in a really, really bad situation because you were looking for the cheapest guy to do it. And the shop doesn't have any insurance. They're not going to be able to cover this. And now you've got nothing.
Right. Yeah, it's not a good sign when you're putting a brand new engine in a truck and skimping out on oil cooler, oil pump.
Yeah. Yeah. There
It's a bad sign all around.
And like you're talking about, a shop that invests in itself. Look, people that are tradesmen, before you got into this, you were into the construction side of things some years ago, and there are certain tools that you have to do the job.
Absolutely.
If you were doing that as a one-off job, you wouldn't invest in it. If I was trying to, do some carpentry work on the weekend, I might not have the miter saw that I needed. I might not have the best of the best.
Right.
But if I'm a professional and I'm doing this every day, if the guy's out there working at, no offense, but if the guy's out there working out of Black and Decker tools, and he's got a bag he's working, it's that's something that goes. When I look at that, I think he's not truly invested. I've had techs like that came into work for us, and I would try to get them to go, okay, you need to invest in some tools if you're going to be in this industry. If you're going to stay in here, I mean, I'm not telling you that you have to go spend money on Snap-on tools or anything like that, but at least have the tool that you need for the job to make you efficient and proficient at what you're doing.
Right.
So they don't want to invest in that. It makes you go, how long are you planning on doing this?
Right.
So
they kind of seem kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah. And if I was looking at, can you imagine going to a doctor and them going, well, we don't really have a CAT scan. We use an iPhone, and we got this adapter off of Amazon that we can scope you with.
Yeah. It's got this cool app that goes with it.
That's right. Yeah. It's like, no, that's probably I'm probably gonna find somebody else to. Thanks, but no thanks.
Well, going along those lines, you want to look for a shop that uses OE diagnostic tools like Ford's IDS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, I get it. I started out with a voltmeter. I didn't even have a scanning tool when I started. But as you can, and that I think that a good shop should, you progress, and the money that you make as a shop owner, you're gonna make the money and then put it back into the business until you get these things. If you don't, then you're just skimming off the top all the profits that you're making. You're not planning on being in this business or expanding this business or anything like that. You're planning on just making it a paycheck. And I think that the OE diagnostics is a really, really good way that you could go to the shop and say, hey, do you have the capability? What type of software do you use to, flash this? And if the guy's going, well, we really don't have the ability to do that, my second question would be why? Because there's two things that I can think of why they wouldn't have that. One is that they don't want to make the investment, or two, it might be that it's a good shop. It just, they don't do that many of that type of vehicle to justify the added costs for that. And if you're not flashing a bunch of Ford vehicles or a bunch of GM vehicles, that might be a good indication of going, this isn't this guy's forte. Now, he may be great. He may be the world's best BMW mechanic, but I don't have a BMW. And so that might help you kind of narrow down some of that. What are some other things that you think that you see?
General sense of professionalism is one that you can get by talking to people, but look at how he keeps his books.
Yeah.
Does it look like he's planning to be there in a couple of years? Does it look like he's kept the records of years past?
Yeah.
Or does he have crumpled up receipts when he pulls his phone out of his pocket?
Yeah.
Or does it look like he actually has a filing system and keeps track of his things?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing about that that's so important is a lot of the parts may have a 2-year warranty on it. And you may not keep the best books on this thing, and you need to know where you got this thing. It was, what injectors did the guy, and I'm guilty. When I started out, it was pretty much, I was like, I don't know if you remember Columbo.
Yeah.
But he gets out and he's wrinkled suit, one more thing, I was, that way. My wife wasn't that big a part of the business at the early stages as far as the bookkeeping. She's always been a huge part and helper with me, but we didn't have that part together like we should have when we were first starting out.
Right.
And so when a guy would call in, he would call you, a year and 9 months and say, hey, you replaced injectors on my truck. And then I would have to say, do you have your receipt? Can you tell me which ones we replaced? And you're like, this customer shouldn't be having to do that. I should be able to look up in the system. I'm not going to be able to go, well, you pull the valve cover off and we look, these look like they're new. Well, that's not good enough.
Right.
You need to be able to go, okay, Mr. Jones or so-and-so, these are the injectors that we replaced when we had the causal failure. They're still under warranty. We take care of you. This is the date that you had it. So it just gives that customer the sense of security that they deserve. And, it really, it shows you that the guy's planning on, he's got roots in the ground. he's planning on being there.
He's got an investment there.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah.
It all ties together. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that those are really good points. I mean, I hope that helps. I hope those are some things that maybe help you as a consumer, as a customer. Keep in mind. I mean, if you're going to a doctor, you would treat it kind of the same way, right? I mean, you would want to know some references, sure. Reviews are good, but the problem with reviews today is that, unfortunately, two things I think about reviews. One is that nobody actually really, it seems like reviews are more, they need to rename that. Complaints is what they really need to call it. Because very few times do people actually, a lot of times reviews are just, you can have 1,000 customers out there, but just try to get the guy to go on. He'll rave about you to his friends. But to take the time to stop what he's doing and then write a review, unless he's just, angry about something, it just generally does not happen. There are somewhat of an indicator. And the other thing about it is that there's a lot of companies out there that will pay big money to have negative reviews necessarily taken down. Yelp is one that I know from experience of others that maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe we should just bleep that name out. But
no, we can make fun of Yelp.
Okay, we can make fun of Yelp.
Hey y'all, this is Control Booth. Y'all can make fun of Yelp. Yelp
Okay.
is pretty much universally hated by everybody.
Free game. Okay, cool. All right. Well, we hate you, Yelp.
Yeah, you suck.
So the problem with that is that they unless you pay a certain fee, I have seen people actually bad reviews of people that have never done business start popping up, and people that have never done business. I can think of one shop locally here. The guy's got 5 reviews. 4 of them are his family, and the other one is a buddy of his that I know. I'm thinking to myself,
Seems pretty reliable.
exactly right. So I mean, so it goes both ways. So these things are things that you can actually go to and see. When we started incorporating this as dealers, used to, we didn't really have a good way. We would tell the customer, look, send us a picture. If you want to become a dealer of ours, send us a picture of your building, a copy of your business license. That's another one too.
Do they have a business
Do they
license?
even have a business license? Because you would be shocked to find out how many shops are out there that are running, cash and carry kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
There is no business license. There's no, really, I mean, it's just I would trade for guns and chickens and ammo and all kind of stuff.
There's no incentive to keep books then either.
No, absolutely no tax, no tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I hate paying taxes, but it's also a good sign that the shop is actually legitimate, so long as the taxes that you're paying actually make it to the government too.
Yeah.
But, you never know, because I've seen a lot of stuff in my time in this business, but that's definitely a good indication.
So, quick question from the audience kind of over here. What do you say to the guys who they maybe prefer, their mom and pop shop? Maybe they're like, hey, this is the place that I've always gone for all my stuff.
Well, I hope that the takeaway from this is the understanding is, look, I'm not knocking any mom and pop shops. We started out as a much, much smaller shop, and it was me and my wife, and there's nothing at all wrong with that. In many ways, I like being able to get a hold of the guy on the phone and talk to him personally, and that's always great. I think the big takeaway that we're trying to say with that is that there needs to be an investment, right? There needs to be some way that that you're going to have some type of, especially if it's a big repair, such as an engine or a transmission. If the guy he has no insurance. If another thing is just think about it. What happens if your truck, heaven forbid, the shop catches on fire, burns to the ground, and your truck's stuck in there? What are you going to do? Did you even ask him? I mean, because if that's the case, you may just say, we've lightened it up a little bit. Come and get her. She, couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, but I can pretty much guarantee you whatever problem you had, you don't have the same problem anymore.
It's not an issue.
It's not an issue. The paint scraped off of it. It's ready to go to the body shop.
Yeah.
So
Recently sanitized.
yeah. So I think that's I prefer that hometown business. Look, we bank locally. We deal with stuff locally. It's just, though, there needs to be a level of professionalism with that and an investment in the shop. So, don't take that as the wrong way, but that is a good indicator of, people don't think that anything's going to happen. So they, and they're gambling with your money, not theirs. So because if it happens and you go to sue them, well, I mean, the guy may not have anything for you to get, so you're stuck. So, and you've got whatever truck you had is almost double in price now. So, I mean, how are you going to replace it?
Yeah. And there's a big difference, too, between a mom and pop shop, which is how you started out, and your cousin's garage in his backyard.
Absolutely.
There's a huge difference there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mom and pop shops can still be insured. They can still keep the books well. Just because they're small it's not a knock against them.
No, not at all. No, not at all. So hopefully that kind of answers that, clears that up. So please don't take that the wrong way, because it's certainly not meant that way. All right. So going from there, I think that some of the things that we have tried, now this is the flip side of the coin, right? I think, before we end this video, I'd like to kind of address the shop owners and some of the things that you can do to cover yourself, because unfortunately we live in a world that, not everybody's going to be as transparent with you as what you would like for them to be. And some things as a shop owner that, not just that either. Let me back up. Let me take that. Let's just nix that, okay? We're going to edit that. All right, some things as a shop owner that you can do to cover yourself and to be able to give that quality to your customer. I think that a lot of things could be helped if we treated the industry more like a doctor's office.
Right.
When they come to you, are you spending the time to talk to them, filling out some type of report that you've generated so that your technician, because I remember being a tech, some of the most aggravating things is, okay, great, I've got the truck, but what's wrong with it? I mean, what's the complaint?
Right, what's the customer's complaint?
Yeah. So you would have that same thing, and I want that experience when the customer comes in to be able to, fill out that form and say, okay, there's a lot of things as a diagnostician, as a technician, that you can look at and go, you know what, how do I have that piece of information to be able to diagnose a guy's truck? Perfect example. A guy just puts motor mounts on a truck and he leaves a bolt loose because maybe it was an engine swap or whatever. How did I know that had just been done? I probably looked at that to find that there was a harness issue because of the torque of the engine. It was pulling on the harness every time we went to go take off. If I had known, I would have looked at that quicker because I know what was done previously. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you do to try to either cover yourself or to give a better experience for the customer?
Just give more assurance to them in general. Well, starting off what you said, a good intake system, getting just basic information from the customer so that you can reach back out to them at a moment's notice, notifying them of things, asking them questions about their truck. Having a good open line of communication with the customer is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Absolutely crucial. Like you said, finding out everything that was previously worked on with the truck most recently is most important. Finding out everything that they have concerns with. That's a really good clue, is if they have a system there, a system set up. Other things, when we do engine installs, we put at least 500 miles on the motor. At least 500 miles on the motor. For one, it's a good break-in period, and for two, it's troubleshooting.
Yep.
Make sure that engine's running well before you give it back to the customer.
Yeah.
That's what may seem small and may seem honestly like an annoyance to the customer is we don't allow pickups on Friday.
Yes, that's a huge. We've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
Because nothing good is going to come from that. Nothing good is going to come from that. Here's what's going to happen. The guy's going to wind up, heaven forbid, the part that you put. Let's say you are just MacGyver. You're the best mechanic ever. The part you puts on fails. Well, now that it's failed, it's going to cost him a tremendous amount of headache, or her a tremendous amount of headache, simply because they're not going to be able to they may not be able to get a hold of you. If they do get a hold of you, that means, they're probably going to be, you've got them on the side of the road now. You got to do something with them. You got to go, can you get a wrecker dispatched out there? Even if you do get a wrecker out there to get them picked up, you may be closed as a shop owner, and, now the truck's got to sit over the weekend. You don't have parts because the parts store's closed at 12 o'clock on Saturday morning or whatever. Or maybe they don't open at all. It's just, it's not a good thing. And everybody wants their truck for the weekend. I get it. I understand. But it does nothing but breed a perfect storm of problems. And I would much rather the guy, if he does have a problem, have a problem on a Thursday than on a Friday.
Exactly. I mean, engine installs aren't cheap. It goes back to why skimp out on an oil cooler, an oil pump, stuff like that. when you're putting a new engine in. Why rush and pick it up on a Friday when you could wait until Monday?
Yeah.
Make sure every single problem is ironed out. And if it's not, make sure that shop's going to be open and there to take care of you.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We have a lot of customers that come from states over. I mean, California, New York, Florida, all over the United States. They drop the trucks in here. So we probably see, and our take is probably quite a bit different than that of a guy that's working, and he, his customer base is a 40, 50 mile radius.
Right.
But when you're sending a guy after you've just installed the engine and you're fixing to send him back in a truck going all the way across the country to California, you don't want him to develop some coolant leak because some line decides to fail. I mean, it's got to be ironed out. It's got to be right. And that's a lot of liability, because the last thing you want is the guy to get all the way to Colorado and then break down over something like that.
Exactly.
And I mean, unfortunately, we've had experiences where we've seen silly little things fail. And I think that there's one of them was like a certain O-ring that was leaking or something on a dipstick tube one time. And it was on an install. Somehow or another, we just overlooked it. And it wound up, it was a leak, but it wouldn't even leak until the thing had gotten, 1,500 miles on it or whatever it was, out
Right.
long ways away from home. And then it creates a problem. You're like, why in the world? It's not even worth it. Just go ahead and replace it, be done with it. So through all the experience we've had, we've generated, I think, a pretty good system. So long as we stick to it. When you make a definite decision not to let a customer pick up on a Friday, it's hard because the guy is going to be, they're going to be.
He's excited. And it's always a family camping trip.
Yep.
They're going to the beach or something like that. They need their truck. They've got all this stuff they've got to haul this weekend. They're moving this weekend. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
Have to have their truck.
It almost reminds me of the pilot. Being a pilot, they call it the pilot crunch or whatever it is when people go, do I really want to fly in this weather? It's really nasty, but we got to get home-itis, they call it,
Yeah.
You're like, I have already set myself personal limits, minimums. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And all that stuff kind of goes out the window when somebody starts putting pressure on you.
Yeah.
And that's tough. Look, I get it. I want you to have a good time with your family. I want you to, be able to go to that camping trip or that horse show or whatever it is. Nothing would make me happier. The last thing I want to happen is you be on the side of the road, broke down, and it's my fault because I should have just said no.
Yeah.
And you feel like the bad guy. You're going to make the customer sometimes unhappy about doing that, but we're not doing it because, we want to get paid.
Right.
It's
not to be an annoyance to the customer at all.
No.
And the things that seem like annoyances are really things that make the customer happier in the long run.
Exactly.
They make them safer. They make the truck better.
Yep.
They're positives. They're not negatives, but they're cloaked as negatives.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like not letting customers bring you parts.
Oh, that's terrible.
Don't let customers bring you parts to put in your truck.
No, because there are so many things that can go wrong with that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Let's say you get the cab off and you didn't look at them good, and the guy brought you the wrong parts.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't fit. Maybe here's another one. What happens if the parts fail? He doesn't want to pay you labor on that. And the truth be known is, it's not your fault. You shouldn't be, held accountable for that. The guy took that out of your hands and said, look, the shop that deals with their parts guys on a regular basis, they're buying a lot more parts than just the individual that owns a truck. So if they have a failure from that, they may be able to work something out with their vendor and said, look, I buy a lot of parts from you. I need you to take care of me on this.
This is an established relationship.
Yes. Otherwise, now you're just kind of up creek, and the guy's not happy. You're not happy. There's no go home happy in this scenario.
Yep.
And
again, something that seems like an annoyance.
Yep.
But it's really an assurance for the customer.
It really is, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to go to the guy and go, you know what? It failed. I need you to fix it. End of story. It's no confusion of, well, you bought the part. Can't really do anything for you on that because it's not that. Well, the guy goes, well, maybe you didn't do it right. It's back and forth banner. Just look, I'll take all the responsibility. I'll buy the parts and I'll be done.
Don't muddy the waters where you don't have to.
That's right. It needs to be clear and concise. It just needs to be understood. That way it removes all of the yellow lights that I call,
mm-hmm.
Of things where you're not really certain of what should take place next.
Yeah.
We got one more question coming out of the control booth real quick. This was actually asked on one of our most recent YouTube videos, and it's directed directly at you, Cass. What the person wants to know is, one, do you do all your own work on your personal truck? And two, on your personal truck, did you put a special engine in it, or is it your own engines?
Well, I hate to really disappoint. So I've got like 4 different trucks. So it depends on which one you're asking about. If you're asking the one I drive the most, the truth of the matter is I don't drive anything very much right now because we're in the process of building a house. And we actually live, we'll just say, very close to the shop. And that makes for very, very short drives. It's walking distance. So
Shouting distance, even.
it is shouting distance. Hey, you. So there, yeah. So, but I do have a couple of different vehicles, both of which I put our own engines in. One is highly customized. Right now, we blew the trans out of it. It didn't like all the power we put to it, and I have yet to get it back up and going just because I've had so many things, going on. It's, for reliability and high performance and daily driver, those trifecta just don't really like to sometimes work out because it's not that the high performance part won't hold up. It's what's behind that winds up,
Exactly.
exiting the chat, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, 2 of the trucks that I have, and I've got 4. Yeah, I've got 4, and 2 out of 4, yes, have our custom engines on.
All right, and then so I know I said that was the last question, but we got one little silly question, just to see if we can get you to crack a smile. The audience wants to know: are you trying to become the Willy Wonka of diesel?
The Willy Wonka. Would that make you an Oompa Loompa?
Let's not look at it that way. I'm like Charlie, but you don't have to give me the whole shot. Just give me a little part of it.
Give you the golden egg.
Yeah.
The ticket. That show never. I don't know what the appeal of that was. Maybe with people with like LSD and everything, get high on it. I don't know. I mean, I just never
didn't do anything.
It just didn't resonate with me. Maybe I like chocolate, but I found that Willy was a little weird, a little concerning there. No, I do not want to be like Willy Wonka. I would rather. Maybe I could turn myself as something a little different. Willy Wonka. That's terrifying.
You're too practical.
I think so. Yeah. I mean.
Not as silly and carefree as Willy Wonka is. Which, if you're entrusting someone with your diesel truck, that's probably a good thing. Chocolate, maybe, okay.
Maybe.
But a diesel truck.
I mean, I've seen some people are, never mind. You know what? I'm not even going to go there. We're not going to do that. But we do all things diesel. And, we eat, sleep, breathe this stuff. So, I think that we think about it on different platforms. I develop and do a lot of the design and engineering, programming, all that stuff. That's pretty much my job now. But I've done the mechanic side of things. I've done a lot of the engine building side, a lot of the machining side, and now more of product, or not just product development, but also working on company development and processes. So we see it like a diamond has so many prisms. You look at it and facets. I think that's kind of the way that I look at what we do now, and just being able to. There's so many areas that for improvement, for development, and I think that if most shop owners or most business owners, whether it's a shop or whether the guy's selling, hamburgers, it doesn't matter. If you really work, you could spend the rest of your life really trying to develop and perfect, a Chick-fil-A. There, not the Willy Wonka, but the Chick-fil-A, and I'll tell you why. Chick-fil-A is so consistent. It's an amazing company, and I admire them every time I go. I like Chick-fil-A. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not filet mignon. What they're doing is not, it's not fine dining. But what they do extremely well. And I think that if I was really trying to be liken myself to a company like that, I think I'd be a chicken, not a Willy Wonka. What do you think?
You're a chicken?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?